So the first question comes in from Dr. Maya Nagaratnam, who happens to be a dear friend of mine whom I met through Sarees and Stories. And Maya asks, is it too personal a question to ask about your growth points during the MCO? MCO refers to the way Malaysia refers to our restricted movement order. So movement control order is the MCO. We're past, I've lost count, but we're well past day 30, I think, or 32 of the MCO here in Malaysia. So my growth points during the MCO, or rather what I've discovered about myself. I've discovered that I actually really like being alone. It's not something that a lot of people might admit to, but I actually have no problems with isolation at all. I suppose a large part of that has to do with the fact that, I'm isolated with my husband, who happens to be my favoritist person. So I can imagine that if you had to be isolated without that one person who would make any situation okay for you, that would be tough. But I'm lucky enough to be with that one person who is my everything. So the movement control order has taught me that I actually don't need as much social interaction as I think I do. And I'm not an extrovert. I'm an introvert by nature to begin with. But finding out that I need even less than I thought I did is a little bit sobering. Maya also asks what my favorite recipe is during quarantine. Okay, so something that you need to know is I tend to cook a lot anyway. Even before the restricted movement order, we ate home most nights a week, except for maybe one night out when we would go out for a date night. So cooking and kind of eating at home is completely normal for me, and it hasn't been much of an issue. I suppose we've had to prepare one extra meal a day. Lunch is the extra meal a day I prepare, and these days a cooked breakfast as well. So I do find that I spend a lot of my day in the kitchen, but I enjoy cooking. I love cooking. And my favorite recipe during quarantine is, we don't eat a lot of Indian food at home. I don't cook a lot of Indian food. We maybe eat Indian food once a week, once every 10 days or so. I tend to cook a lot of Italian food. I cook a bit of French, I cook Thai food, a little bit of Mexican. Our tastes, both Sashi and I, are kind of global when it comes to our palate. So we eat a wide variety of food. The one thing that I have noticed is that during the MCO I have been cooking more and more rice, because it is the easier base to go to. So one of my favorite recipes to make is something called clay pot chicken rice. Now this is a very Malaysian Chinese dish. And if you went out, and typically you would go out to eat it at a stall, rice is cooked in a clay pot along with pieces of chicken and sausage and some mushroom in a dark soy sauce. And this entire concoction is then just steamed in a pot, and it's one of my favorite foods. And then I recently discovered that I could replicate a clay pot chicken rice in a rice cooker really easily. So that's kind of become my favorite recipe. But I try to not make it more than once every 10 days or so, although I think if I was allowed, I would probably eat it every day. That and steamed broccoli, I think, are my top two favorite foods that I could probably eat every day. My go-to comfort drink is, you'd be really surprised, but it's actually water. The one thing that I'm really bad at is drinking water. So I always find that what I need to do is remind myself to drink water, and it's a good reminder. I should remind myself to drink water, and I find myself finishing at least 2 liters of water a day, and then and that's kind of my comfort drink. But I'm never going to say no to a gin and tonic either. So this idea of being comfortable during the MCO, right? The idea that everybody is stuck at home isn't fair, because everybody's dealing with the MCO in various ways. Some people live in comfort, others do. And this next question that I got from Perline Vignesh kind of illustrates that. And the trigger warning is for here. We will be talking a little bit about domestic violence. So Perline says that she was in an abusive relationship for about 4 years and later came out of it, and now she's married to one of the finest human beings. And she was thinking the other day, what would happen to her if she had been in her previous relationship during the times of lockdown? So her question is, what would your guidance be to women who are in an abusive relationship during these difficult times? Their lives are already burdened with all the abuse and now they have nowhere to go. This is a really important question to address. In fact, once the lockdown was announced here in Malaysia, almost immediately what happened was we had a notice put out by the Women's Aid Organization, which is an NGO that I have great respect to, and they came out with this guideline, these infographics that you can go to their Instagram page and check. And what the infographics are is all sorts of tips and very important kind of guidelines of what to do if you are, let's say, in a domestic in a relationship that's abusive. Okay, so you'll find a guide for domestic violence survivors on their Instagram page, and it includes as well safety planning for vulnerable children. For example, if you're in an abusive relationship and you have children with you as well, there's some tips and steps as to what you can do. There's also tips there as to how to prepare to leave an abusive relationship, or if you are in a position where you cannot leave, which is also very possible. And then there are also tips there and measures there for self-care while you're in an abusive relationship. I don't want to go into the details of it here because I think it's important for you to go to the Women's Aid Organization page. I'll share the page in my stories after this, so you'll be able to have a look. Go ahead and have a look at those infographics and share them if you think that they might benefit a person who is in an abusive relationship during the lockdown. If you live here in Malaysia, the number one piece of advice that I can share with you is that there is a hotline by the Ministry of Women, Family and Community Development called Talian Kasih, and it is 15999. 15999. It's a 24-hour emergency hotline. You can call that hotline at any point in time if you feel that you're in danger, and help will be at hand. The Women's Aid Organization also has their own hotline, and they have a WhatsApp number as well, and the WhatsApp goes to a program called Tina, so you can save it as Tina, which is a person's name, on your phone, and you can call them or WhatsApp them at 018-988-8058. I'll share this information with you again once I finish this live, and then we can go ahead and check my stories, and the information should be there for you for your reference. I got another interesting question about relationship issues as well. This is a little bit of a long one, so bear with me here. Okay, so it says here, and it's from an anonymous person. I'm having a relationship issue with the person I'm legally married to. Even when he is having any work stress, he always chooses to be silent and not to talk. He won't answer my call, or sometimes he doesn't reply my messages too. He says he doesn't like to argue over anything because he doesn't like to argue or fight with me. But I always wanted to open up and talk, even if it's a small matter. I stopped talking to him over a month ago, but he never initiated any conversation too. When I did, he started to blame me for prolonging the silence, and it's my first relationship. I'm confused how to handle him. I started to worry about my future, about how it's going to be when I start living with him after marriage. I don't know if I should proceed with the wedding. What's your opinion about the man who can't handle his stress and always chooses to stay away instead of sharing it to his partner? Wow, okay, this is a toughie, because I think, you know, we're taught these days that the basis of any relationship is communication, that you have to be in a position where you are able to share your feelings in whatever form, because let's say you're not able to talk to your partner or to your child, there has to be another way of communicating, either writing to them or having a third party mediate. So I don't, I won't answer the question about should I proceed with the wedding or not. What I will say to you is, if you're in a relationship with a partner who is not talking to you and you feel that him or her talking to you is important to you, it is something that you need in the relationship, then you have a right to it. Okay? So it's very, very straightforward to me. You have an absolute right to it, if that's what you want, right? You want your partner to communicate with you. And you also have a right to be able to tell your partner, listen, it's making me very uncomfortable that we can't talk. Can we talk? If your partner shuts you down and says, no, I don't want to talk, to me, this is an alarm bell. And it's an alarm bell that needs to be heeded, because when you think about it, if you can't talk to your partner when things are going wrong, what is your guarantee then that they will be able to understand what it is that you're going through? That's the only way that you have of getting your feelings across to them, is to talk to them. But if they don't want to listen to you or don't want to indulge in the conversation, then you're already at a kind of dead end. And I'm not saying that it's over. I'm saying that there are still many, many options of trying to make your partner understand that communication is important to you. And if that fails, to get a third party, because sometimes when you have that same conversation or the lack of conversation over and over and over again and nothing is happening, maybe the thing to do is to try something else. Because if whatever you've been trying for, I don't know, a couple of weeks, a couple of months, a couple of years isn't working, then perhaps what you need to do is try something new. Right? And that might be getting a trusted third party. Might be a parent, might be a friend, might be a close relative, might be somebody in a religious organization that you're a part of, to try and mediate the conversation. Because I would say that for me personally, in my relationship, I'm the one who's like that. I'm the one who finds it very, very difficult to open up. It was my husband, Sashi, who really taught me that it's vital to be able to talk things out and thrash things out, because, and this is a really important point, he said to me once that it doesn't matter how bad the conversation gets, how heated it gets, because at the end of the day, nothing changes. The relationship is still as strong as ever. The conversation can get heated, the conversation can get difficult, but the relationship remains. So, if you have faith that your relationship is built on a solid enough foundation, then you need to have the conversation. And if your partner at that point in time says, no, I don't want to have this conversation, then it's time to rethink what conversation means to your relationship. Is it important or isn't it important? I hope that helped. I hope that was a little bit of an answer at least. The next question is about a very different kind of a relationship. Somebody who doesn't want to be named said, I see that you're close to your grandmother. I'm asking you this. How did you cope with her passing away? My grandmother passed away in December, and I still wake up all of a sudden remembering those details. I was with her when she passed away, and it's even quite difficult today to say that she died. I always say that she passed away. Yeah, I get this. This year in September it'll be 6 years since my grandmother passed away, and it's still really, really hard. I know a lot of people say that when it comes to people who have close to you who have passed away, that it gets easier. I don't know if it gets easier. I think that you learn to live your life, but that doesn't mean that you live your life the same way you always have. I think when you are close to somebody and they pass away, some part of you changes. So to expect to go back to how things were a year ago may not be possible, right? Or 6 years ago may not be possible. But all I can say to you is what worked for me is kind of keeping in touch with my grandmother by writing to her. by keeping her memory alive. Obviously, the saris that I wear today, what I'm wearing is also a sari of hers. The saris that I wear are also a great way for me to kind of feel connected to her. And I think the other thing that you need to do is also to kind of go ahead and be okay with it. Be okay with this whole idea that it's hard. It's hard to say goodbye to a person who was close to you, right? So go ahead and grieve for as long as you need to. Go ahead and feel all those emotions and cherish the memories. That's all that you can do. I mean, the living keep living, and the dead stay dead. Unfortunately, that's the world. That's the way the world works. But that doesn't mean that you can't still cherish the memories of those who have passed, right? Okay. Next question. I did say to you there's some killer questions that came in today. Okay, so Gloria Steinem, this comes from Janani, by the way. Gloria Steinem says that she's amazed that half the human race has a day, and she's referring to, of course, Women's Day. In today's world, we celebrate Women's Day in March the 8th, as a day to push commercialism, sell gifts, cards, all aimed at making her feel special for one day. But is the world ready to see us as half of the human race? Are we ready to claim a seat at a table full of misogynistic chauvinists who pay our heads and tell us to do as they say? Wow, okay. There are two questions here. Is the world ready to see us, women, as half of the human race? No, otherwise we still wouldn't be grappling with horrific crimes and violence against women. But things are changing, of course. Are we ready as women to claim a seat at a table full of misogynistic chauvinists? I don't want to share a table with misogynistic chauvinists. They can have their own table. I'm not interested in sharing anything with them. I'm interested in agency. I'm interested in my own table. And in my table, everybody is equal. That's the kind of table I want to sit at, and that's the kind of table that I want to work towards. I hope that answered your question, Janani. So we're going to move on. We've been doing this for about 20 minutes now, 15 minutes. And we're going to move on now to questions about saris, which I think a lot of you have been waiting for. So here we go, questions about saris. Madhavi says, I always have a problem pleating up my saris, especially crisp cottons. They are just unwieldy. Any tips on how to smooth them so that I can look slim and trim? Okay. This is a great question. This is a question I get asked a lot. First things first, let me say, Madhavi, and I hope you don't take offense to this. I don't mean any offense. This whole idea of looking slim and trim in a sari only works if you are slim and trim, okay? If you are not, then you will look like yourself in a sari, right? The idea that a sari can change the way that you look is a fallacy, okay? The sari molds itself to your body and to your shape, and what you want to be doing then is to be comfortable in that shape, right? I do understand, however, what you're trying to say, that sometimes crisp cottons can be a little bit unwieldy. I find that the one thing that I must do when it comes to cotton saris is I insist on ironing my cotton saris so that, you know, when it comes back from the dobi or when it's been in your cupboard and it's all nice folded up and they're very sharp, crisp lines, I find that those lines, fold lines, trip me up when I try and drape my sari. So I always make sure that I iron those lines out and that I start with a smooth surface. That really helps. Otherwise, in terms of pleating up saris, I'm afraid there's nothing more I can help you with except for the fact that it's practice. I say this all the time, and I know that it is such a frustrating answer. Everybody says practice, 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 but it really is that. I've been wearing saris for over 20 years now, almost 25 years, and it's muscle memory. You get to a point where you understand that sari is going to mold itself to your body in a certain way. You cannot look at somebody else in a sari and say, I want to look like them in a sari, because that will never happen. It will never happen unless, of course, it is your twin who's wearing the sari. Then I accept. But somebody else who has a different body shape from you can never, ever look the same as you in a sari. You need to kind of come to an acceptance that you will look like you. Yes, there are many things that you can do to kind of make yourself more and more comfortable. But to smoothen them out, to look slim and trim, yeah, that's really hard going. I mean, I can offer one little tip. I mean, how I manage my saris is my drape is a very tight drape. Okay, so what I believe in is when I pleat my saris and I pin it to my shoulder, everything is pulled very, very tight. There's very, very little room for wriggling, so it feels like I'm kind of wrapped up in a burrito almost. And that might help. I don't know if that's the answer that you're looking for, but you could try that. There are loads of draping videos out there, but at the end of the day, when the tips that you take away from those draping videos have to be adjusted for your own body. That's the only way that you can get past. Okay, you have to be able to be comfortable with the sari. The sari is a set. Every sari is different in its dimensions, right? So your drape will also have to change with every sari. I know that sounds really kind of counterintuitive, but it does, because if a sari is longer or shorter or wider or narrower or even slipperier or stiffer, makes a difference to your drape. So you need to be able to be comfortable with the sari before you attempt draping it, and most of all, be comfortable with yourself as well, and be happy with how you look like in a sari. Okay, we're still on sari related questions, because Indu Priya asked, is investing in a sari shaper underskirt a good idea? Now, I wrote about this a couple of months ago, I think, but always worth going back to. I will reiterate what I said in that post. I don't believe in sari shaper underskirts, because for me, it doesn't change my drape in any way, shape or form. Okay. I'm also not very keen on any garment that promises you a better shape, because it implies that your shape is not good enough. Your shape is absolutely fine. Do not listen to anybody who sells you a product that says that they are going to make your body look better. Please, you don't need that. What you need to be is comfortable. So I would say that if you want to buy an underskirt, a shaper underskirt as well, because it allows for the sari to maybe fall a little bit more snugly against your body, that's fine. But remember, it doesn't work for all saris, because no matter how snug your underskirt is, if you wear a starched cotton sari, it's still going to puff out a little bit. That's nothing that you can do about that. The other important thing that you must remember is the material matters. Okay, I tested a whole load of sari shaper underskirts, and most of them were a nightmare to wear for our 90% humidity weather here in Malaysia. I couldn't. I mean, I'm somebody who sweats a lot as it is, but I found it really, really uncomfortable to wear some of them. The ones that were slightly thicker material were okay, slightly more absorbent, but the biggest problem that I have with sari shaper underskirts is, okay, it's a personal problem, because the way I walk is I take strides that are 10 feet long, and I don't walk, I kind of gallop along, so I need a lot of movement, and I find that the sari shaper underskirts, because they're so fitted, it doesn't give me the range of movement that I need, and I'm constantly kind of doing things in a sari, and I find that the sari shaper underskirts kind of restricted my movement a little bit more than I would have liked. So I wasn't too comfortable with them. Having said that, I do know friends of mine who have bought various kinds of various brands of sari shaper underskirts, and they've been really happy with them. Some of them live here in Malaysia as well, so obviously the humidity isn't a problem for them as well. Again, it's so personal, right? It really depends on whether it works for you, which is why I don't believe in blanket advertising. I don't believe in saying that this one product, this one skirt will change the way you feel about a sari. It may happen, it may not, and you need to be prepared for that. So invest in a sari shaper underskirt if that's what you really want to do. Invest in it. Try it out. If it works, great. you have discovered something that makes your sari draping experience a whole lot more pleasant. But if it doesn't work, you put it down to experience, right? You put it down to experience. You can review it honestly if you want on social media and say that, hey, it didn't work for me because of X, Y, Z. But don't say it doesn't work blanket, because that's not fair either, right? You've got to be fair about this. Take it for yourself. Try it for yourself if you want. If it works, great. If it doesn't, tough. Okay? Next question. My God, we've only had question number 8. We've got loads more to go. Okay, I'm going to be faster. Tell them to stop talking so much, okay? All right. Question number 8. I've got a burning question. Somebody told me to send new saris for dry cleaning after wearing them the first time, even though they are wash and wear types. This is supposed to preserve the colors when we wash them after subsequent wears. Is this true? I don't know if it's true. I do know that this is something I used to do a long time ago to preserve colors, but let me tell you something about sari dyeing, okay? If a sari is dyed in a natural dye, it will run, okay? The manufacturers or the weavers will do everything that they can to set the dye, but in a lot of times, a natural dye like pomegranate peel or madder or indigo will run. There's almost nothing you can do about it. Sending it for a dry cleaning beforehand probably will help, but please do yourself a favor and do your dry cleaner a favor by telling them that there's a very high possibility that the sari might run. Just prepare them for it, okay? I find that dry cleaning these days to me is a luxury rather than a necessity. So where possible, I don't try and dry clean. What I do is I invest in saris where I know it's not going to run. Good quality saris don't have their color bleeding out. It's simple as that. Okay, saris from a long time ago that used chemically dyes used to bleed quite a bit, but these days I think it's only the lower quality dyes, chemical dyes, that tend to bleed a lot. So it's tough, right? I think it's, if you can afford it, great, send it off for the dry cleaning. I think that's the only thing that I can say. Okay, question number 9 from Kanchan. How do you maintain silks in a humid country like India, Malaysia, humid too? I have a 6-year-old daughter and I hope to leave her a trunk full of treasure. Is it right, as Indians do, to put saris in the bed storage area? I'm sorry, I don't know what that means, the bed storage area, but I can tell you that the only way to maintain silks is to wear them. If you tuck a silk into a trunk for a couple of years and don't take it out and don't wear it, it is going to decay very, very quickly. Silks are organic natural fabrics. They require your body oils to stay supple. They need to be aired out every now and then in order to be able to maintain their integrity. Sticking them into a dark cupboard or a dark trunk is just going to speed up the decay process. So what I'm wearing today is one of my grandmother's old silks. It's probably 20 or 30 years old. It's probably been worn maybe 100 times in that amount of time. That's the only thing that preserves silks. And remember, it's only good quality silks that get preserved. The lower quality silks, there's nothing that you can do, because if they're going to decay, they're going to decay. Right? Right. Now, this is a question that I think popped up earlier on as well. Postcard from a poet says, my question is how to identify a sari as a handloom and what would be a reasonable price to pay for it depending on the weave. There are so many online and in physical stores saying they wear as a handloom, but I have no way of ascertaining it's true. You're absolutely right. Even I have no way of ascertaining it's true. Let me tell you why. Because these days it is almost next to impossible to figure out whether a sari is hand-loomed or not, because there are so many unethical vendors out there who are doing things to sell you saris that they say are hand-loomed but are actually not. Let me give you a really good example. Did you know that there are people who are employed to sit in rooms, take power loomed or take a machine made saris and poke holes in the selvage? The selvage is the border of the sari. Okay, in a handloom sari, you'll get little holes all along the selvage. That's where the sari, the fabric is attached to the loom. But of course, machine-made saris don't have that. So people are employed to poke holes in the selvage. How will you know? How will you possibly know that this sari is handloomed or not? The only way is to make sure that you buy from a vendor that you trust. And how do you trust a vendor? By purchasing from them and deciding for yourself whether your purchase is good. By going to other sari pages and getting recommendations. That's why I review saris on Sarees and Stories, because I think it's really important for me to be able to share with you that there are vendors out there who are actually doing really, really good work, who are doing honest, ethical work, who are being treated rather unfairly by the rest of the vendors who are doing their best to pull their wool over their eyes. It's impossible unless you're an expert. I don't know how you could possibly tell whether a sari is hand-loomed or not, because it's a really difficult skill to gauge. Even some vendors themselves, who are good vendors, can't tell, and I certainly can't tell from a photograph either, right? So I will say this one thing to you, right? Don't get swayed by cost. Don't look at a sari that they say is being hand-loomed. Let's take a Kanjivaram sari, okay? Don't look at a sari that's being sold as a Kanjivaram for something in the in about $100 US. What is that? 300 ringgit. Less than, I don't know, less than 7,000, 6,000 rupees. Somebody selling you that and saying it's Kanjivaram, and you getting so attracted by this handloom that you are willing to pay for it. That's not what Kanjivaram prices start at. Kanjivaram prices start at over 10,000 rupees. You have no choice in this matter. You can't have it both, right? You can't be running after that bargain and saying that I want a cost-effective sari, but I want it to be hand-loomed as well. For the moment, handloom is still really, really expensive. Of course, there are affordable handlooms. If you go down to cottons, you could probably get a cotton handloom, I'm guessing, for in the vicinity of, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm guessing maybe 1,800 rupees. 100 ringgit is probably the lowest margin. But even then, I think to be fair to weavers, you should be looking at paying for a stock standard simple cotton handloom sari. You should be looking at paying over 2,000 rupees at the very least. At the very least, yeah. So the only thing that you can do, as I said, is buy from a vendor whom you trust. And this next question is kind of related to that, because Feathers for You has asked me, hi, please address how you choose your sari vendors in your Instagram live session. Okay, so as you know, on Sarees and Stories, besides my own saris, I also review a variety of weaves that vendors send to me. I turn down, it's important to note this, I turn down more vendors than I accept, because there is a lot of crap out there on the market. I am not interested in wearing it, and I am not interested in sharing it with you, because it misrepresents what a handloom sari is supposed to be. Nothing wrong with wearing powerloom or machine made. Nothing wrong at all. I do it all the time, and I tell you that I'm wearing powerloom or machine made. But there is a lot of misrepresentation happening out there. So the vendors whom I work with undergo a little bit of a grilling process with me. When somebody approaches me and says, oh, well, we want to send you a sari, I'll say, great, yes, here are my requirements. And my requirements are very, very straightforward. I require the sari to be hand-loomed, and I require the vendor to be able to answer my questions about the sari. And I have lots of questions usually about the width of the sari, about the length of the sari, about where it was made. And all of these questions very quickly give me a very good idea as to whether the vendors that I work with, the vendors who have approached me are genuine or not. I also very quickly go to their pages and have a quick look through. If I find that they have misrepresented their saris, that they have labeled their saris incorrectly, I give them a chance. What I do is I write to them and I say, hey, by the way, you mentioned this is a Mysore silk sari, but actually it isn't. Were you aware of that? Was it just a mistake? Now, if they get defensive on me and they say, no, you don't know what you're talking about, then out they go. I'm not interested in working with them. So the vendors that you do see me feature on my page are the ones that I've vetted, the ones that I really, really trust and that I believe in. Sometimes I get it wrong, and when I do, and make sure that an apology is issued immediately, then you are notified. Because I also think that, the vendors that I work with I'd like to think that we build long-term relationships, in the sense that I mention them over and over again every time I repeat my saris, and I believe in this, right? I'm not somebody who gets saris from people in exchange for money, okay? I get saris because I want to share them with you, and it is important for me to be able to be honest about the kind of sari, the quality, the type of sari, and to share it with you. This is not a transaction. I don't benefit in any way, shape, or form except in getting a sari, which is something that I already want anyway. But more important to me is the education and the knowledge. It's important for me that you are equipped with knowledge, and that's why I review saris. That's why I name vendors, and I share with you the source of every sari, so that you can see for yourself that the vendors that I work with are people who know their stuff, and whom I trust, and which is why you'll see me going back and working with certain vendors over and over again. Neta Weave is one of them. Kanjivaram Weaves by Zoba is another one. These are just a couple of many vendors that I am happy to do repeat work with. Find vendors that you can trust and stick to them. That's the only way forward. Don't get attracted by the cheap prices. Okay? Right. Next question, how to maintain your silk saris, and how to avoid the color of the sari so that they doesn't bleed. What factors need to be looked into while buying a silk sari? We answered this a little bit earlier, Anuradha Ramesh, but I'm going to answer it again for you. Silk saris can only be maintained by wearing them often. There's no point in having a silk sari and wearing it once a year, once every 2 years. It's not going to last. The only way to be able to maintain silks is to wear them often. I'm sorry, I don't have any other answer except for this, because that's what I believe in. To avoid the color of the sari so that they don't bleed, the only thing that I can think of is dry cleaning the saris once when you maybe buy the sari, to set the color if you can afford it. Otherwise, just dry clean your saris instead of washing your silks. I think that's really important. And to be honest with you, I actually don't dry clean my saris after every wear. I now wear my saris at least 5 or 6 times, each sari 5 or 6 times before it goes to the dry cleaner. Unless the sari is soiled badly, I don't think there's a need for it to be dry cleaned, because it doesn't touch your body. The blouse and the underskirt is something that needs to be to be laundered often, but the sari itself, I don't see the point in dry cleaning it that often at all. Next question from Sukanya and Swastika, who come from this great Instagram handle called Sarikasm. I love the name Sarikasm, one of my favorites. So at my home, what my mother does is, after wearing the sari, she sun dries it before keeping it back inside the almirah, especially the regular workwear ones. Is that a good practice? What else can be done? Can we simply put back the sari in our almirah after we change, or do we need to follow some other practice? Can I just say that in this case, please listen to your amma. It's always a good idea to listen to your mother when it comes to sari related tips. Sun drying the sari is great. I mean, if you can, again, if you've got the space and if you've got the sunlight to do it, go ahead. What I do is, I'm not religiously, I'm not good enough to do this every single time, but what I do is, I take the sari that I've been wearing, and I hang it over the banister, or I leave it outside for a day maybe before putting it back into the cupboard to be reworn, because I do rewear my saris. Like I said earlier, I rewear my saris at least 4 or 5 times before they get laundered or dry cleaned. So airing it out is probably, and giving it a good kind of shake, the amma shake where you like snap. Always a good idea to do that before you put your saris away. Shalini Sasidharan says that your collection features many of your grandmother and mother's saris. What kind of care do you take to preserve these saris for more wear out of these vintage clothes? Again, I sound like a broken record. I wear the saris often. As old as they are, the only way to preserve saris is to wear them until they break down, because there's no use holding on to saris that have decided that it's time for them to go. So if you want to really honor a sari, wear it as often as you can, and then what will happen then is you won't feel so bad when it finally just decides to decay, right? Because you would have got enough use out of it. Clothes are not going to be preserved by sticking them into a trunk. That doesn't work. Aruga Jim says, I have learned many types of weaving patterns and its origins through your post. It has helped. Do you have any plans to write a book on saris for its weave type? That's very kind of you, Aruga Jim, but the answer to that is no. I am not going to write a book on saris for its weave types because I'm not a sari expert. Rita Kumar Chushti is. Please look up her book titled Saris. Yeah, something traditions. I think it's a big hardcover book. It's very popular and it's kind of like the Bible of sari weaves. So please go ahead and have a look at that. Ramya asks me, how do you keep the drape intact with kids around? I feel that fur babies or humans are the same in terms of running pretty much everywhere around you. I have two little ones, so having a sari on me with these little ones scares me. Any suggestions? I would love to hear your thoughts. Okay, Ramya, to be fair, yours is a little bit more difficult, no, because I don't have to carry my dogs as much. Sometimes Jeeves I end up carrying. But I understand how difficult it can be with children. I think the first thing for you to maybe realize or accept is there's no perfect way of wearing a sari, and that if you're going to live in a sari, there is absolutely no need for it to look perfect. No, none at all. Because your sari is your daily clothes, right? So why does it need to look pristine all throughout the day? It's impossible. If you're going to be doing chores and mopping and carrying kids and feeding them, it's going to get stained, it's going to get crumpled, it's going to get soiled. That's part and parcel, right? But what I can say to you is what makes it easier to keep a sari on is... Actually, I don't know. I have absolutely no idea. I think that, if a little, sticky hands want to pull your sari, there's nothing that you can do about it. I would maybe advise pinning it securely to your blouse or even your bra strap, but I don't know if that, actually is going to help, whether they're going to rip it off or not. I just think that, listen, you got to be comfortable, right? If you want to wear a sari and you've got your kids with you and it's too much effort or too much trouble, don't do it. Don't put yourself through the stress. Certainly don't put yourself through the shaming that comes with this. You only wear a sari because you want to and because you're comfortable in it. I don't think that I don't think that you should feel the need, I have to wear a sari. I think that's a little bit unfair on yourself, because you're a full-time mom to an active toddler and a newborn. My goodness. I mean, I'm surprised that you would even get a chance to sit down, let alone think about draping a sari. So, hats off to you. Don't be so hard on yourself about this. Try it for an hour or two, maybe during nap time, maybe when the activity is lowest. And don't feel that you need to try it the entire day, right? Just try a little bit for a start, okay? All right, now the next question is very interesting. Now, before I answer this question, I would just want to remind you guys, right? Once I read out this question, no shaming, absolutely no shaming. This question comes from a man, and I will not read out his name because he chose to remain anonymous. And he says, how do I convince my wife to wear saris more often? Whenever I request, she will give excuses that she does not feel comfortable in a sari, it's difficult to walk or to do work when on it. I just wish to make her love saris, okay? Mate, I feel your pain, okay? I understand that you really like the idea of seeing your wife in a sari, but she's told you quite clearly that she doesn't want to wear a sari because she's not comfortable. And as I just said a couple of minutes ago, I believe that people should only wear saris if they feel comfortable. Forcing somebody into a sari doesn't help anybody, right? She needs to feel that she is in a position or situation where she can wear a sari. So let me give you a little suggestion. If your wife says that she feels uncomfortable in a sari, that it's difficult to walk or to do work, and you like seeing her in a sari, why don't you offer her an opportunity to be able to wear a sari and have a relaxed evening where there is nothing else that needs to be done. No kids to look after, no cooking to be done, no chores, nothing except maybe a date night for the both of you. The both of you go to the movies or go out for dinner, anything like that, where she has to do nothing but wear a sari. No other chores. I'm serious. She's not allowed to kind of like run after the baby or whatever. This is her time. This is her time to be able to feel like she's the center of attention, and that she can wear a sari comfortably. Of course, ask her if that's what she would like. But I'm saying to you that if you would like to see her in a sari, perhaps what you need to do is offer her the opportunity, create the opportunity. You can't just expect her to get into a sari because you want to see her in a sari. Maybe you could help her along. Let me know if that suggestion works. Okay? Next question. We've only got about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to steam through. I'm stuck at home during the COVID-19 lockdown and without AC. Draping a sari in this heat seems quite unbearable. Any suggestions for hot weather drapes or fabrics other than cotton? No, just cotton. You can try linen, but the problem is you need to get a pure linen sari, which is next to impossible these days online, because most of the linens that I see being sold are mixed with cotton or silk, and they're really quite heavy. Comfortable, but heavy. But if you get a pure linen sari, those are really comfortable to wear in heats, but otherwise cotton all the way. Cotton every single time. Okay? What's my take on spending, Kamala Gopal asks, what's my take on spending exorbitant charges for getting blouses ready? Aren't people spending way too much on blouses these days? Okay, firstly, people are allowed to spend whatever they want on blouses. It's their money. They can go ahead and do that. But I do agree that it can get quite expensive to make blouses, which is why I don't, which is why I wear little t-shirts from high street tops that I use over and over and over again. I think that, you know, it's great. If you can afford to get a nice blouse made, good for you. The reason I will never do it is because I will outgrow it before I can bring it home from the tailor. Okay, so I'm not going to try it at all. Right. Next question is, many questions from Tejashree. What's my favorite sari drape and why? That's straightforward, Tejashree. It's the navy drape. It's the stock standard drape that you see all the time I'm wearing, because it's the one that I'm most comfortable with. Recently, I've discovered the Kashta drape that you can look up from Winnie Narayan. And it's a really lovely drape with the pleats tucked in the back and looks very, very elegant, and I like it, but it's not as comfortable as my navy drape, because this is something that I've been used to for the last quarter of a century almost. What or who has been the biggest influence on your outlook and views on life, and why? My husband, Sashi, without a doubt. For the last, it'll be 10 years this year since we've met, and without a doubt he has been the most important person who has shaped my worldview in the last decade. I like to think that I'm learning how to be a better person because of him. Full credit to him, if that's what happens. Considering the following that you have, does social media ever get too much for you? Yes, it does, because, you know, there are a lot of idiotic things that happen on social media. There are a lot of morons on social media. Some of them are here on the comments feed. And, you know, it's just irritating. It's irritating to be seen as a piece of entertainment. It's irritating to be seen as a piece of ass. It's irritating to be seen as some sort of a model who is here for your daily kind of laughs. That, you know, my dogs and my house are really up for, you know, your whims and fancies. It does get too much, but you know what the great thing about social media is? I can switch it off anytime I want. So, and because I can switch it off anytime I want, it actually doesn't get too much for me. I can afford to move away from it whenever I want to. Tejashree's final question, she has one more question, is what's your favorite social media detox method? Nothing. I don't really need a detox from this, because I enjoy social media, and like I said, I have the ability to be able to walk away whenever I want, which is great for me. Number question from Unavunav. I hope I've got that right. Unavunav. What does friendship mean to you? Do you make friends easily? Are you comfortable making friends online? Whoo-wee! Lots and lots of questions here. Okay, friendship to me means putting up with nonsense, because, you know, I've got my quirks, and I hope that my friends, and there are very, very, very few of them, like a handful of them, understand that I'm a quirky personality, and that's part and parcel of it. So friendship to me is acceptance, not tolerance, but acceptance. Do I easily make friends? No, I don't. I don't. I am a really, really difficult person when it comes to this whole friend making thing because I'm private. I don't particularly enjoy social activity, and I hate small talk. I hate it. I hate this whole getting to know you business. It really, really frustrates me. So I don't make friends very easily. I'm more likely to turn away friends easily. Am I comfortable making friends online? No. I am not comfortable making friends online. I say this very, very often. I'm not here to make friends with anybody. I'm here to document my saris and to vent and to kind of, just be me. So no, I don't make friends very easily. This is a great question, okay? I'm always wary about commenting on posts as I never knew if my comments would be appreciated. Also, many a times I hesitate to ask for a friend request. How does one decide if it's okay to send a request? Does it seem a personal space that I'm trying to get into? Okay, so a friend request is very much a Facebook thing, right? Okay, so first question is, about commenting on posts. Listen, I think that as long as you're commenting on a public post, you have a right to comment anything that you want, right? Because if the person has put up something for public sharing, then it's completely your right to do so. So please go ahead and comment away. But then a friend request is strange, because I'm not the right person to ask. I'm terrible at making friends. Why would you ask me this? You can send a request. I think you can, or drop a note to the person first. Drop a message to them first and say, hey, listen, I'd like to send you a friend request because XYZ. And I think if the reason is good enough, then they might say yes. But think about why you're sending them the friend request. Why do you need to be their friend? Coming from somebody who doesn't make friends. I'm sorry, but let's just move straight past that one. Lakshmi, is Lakshmi still here? Lakshmi, I'm finally getting to your question. I would like to know if you're a music lover. What kind of music do you listen to? Any Tamil film music memories, old or new? I love music. I have music on constantly at home while I'm cooking, while I'm doing chores, not while working because I can't focus. But what do I enjoy? I like listening. I love Tamil music. I like R&B. I like hip hop. I like, you know what? I listen to just about anything. I'll even listen to jazz. So yeah, music is something that's constant in my life. Any Tamil film music memories, old or new? Oh gosh, no, that's really too hard. I will say that in my playlist a couple of days ago, the soundtrack from Roja came up, and I was just thinking about, when I first saw that movie in the theater, how amazing that soundtrack was, coupled with Mani Ratnam's cinematography of the mountains and all of that, and yeah, it just made me think about how much fun I had watching the movie in the theater for that first time. So I don't know if that counts, but yeah, that was certainly a memory. Rose Black asks me, what am I reading currently? I'm actually reading too many things currently. I'm sorry I didn't bring my latest book with me. I like reading literary fiction most often, and I don't have a favorite author. As you can see, I'm surrounded by books. I have many, 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 many favorite authors. Suganthi wants to know how to improve English communication. Read. Read like your life depends on it. Read non-stop. Read a book a week if you have to. This is the only way to improve your English. Read, and don't be afraid to use what you read. Okay, and now we move on to the final set of questions as we move on to the final 5 minutes. And I've saved questions from my darling Sarada, who runs Neta Weave, for the very end. I started off with questions from Maya, who's a friend that I met online through Sarees and Stories, and I'm ending today's session with a question from Sarada, whom I also met through Sarees and Stories. And Sarada asks, what's my next project that you're planning to do? My next project is a book, but I've been also saying that for the last 5 years, so please don't take my word for it. It hasn't yet happened. When is the next live Sarees and Stories event, as in a physical event, right? And when will it be? Where will it be? I'm sorry, Sarada, I suppose it's a little bit difficult at this point in time. Nobody knows what the new normal is going to be like. There might be no public gatherings for the next 6 months, for example. But trust me when I say that when I do decide on my next live Sarees and Stories event, you, Sarada, will be one of the first people to know. Okay, how do I plan my daily IG posts? Oh, this is a great one. Also from Sarah there, right? Okay, so I don't plan my daily IG posts. I am a writer and therefore I write. And I take I take 3 pictures basically that I want to use throughout the day. And I put the picture up and I just basically write whatever I feel like. Sometimes if I'm wearing a new weave, what I would do is write and describe. One of the posts would be about that. But otherwise I don't plan. I don't put as much time into this as you think that I might. I just don't. And final question before we wrap up today's Instagram live from Sarah the Abneta Weave. Would you ever start your own brand for saris or even consider it? Are you asking as a potential competitor or are you asking as a friend? Because the answer for it is no, I don't want to start my own brand of saris because I am a terrible business person. I do not have a business bone in my body. Also, I think I would not get anything be sold because I'd probably like get all the saris and want to wear them all myself, and then we wouldn't make any money and my husband would scold me and we'll all go to hell in a handbasket. So no, the answer to the question is I'm not going to be starting my own brand of saris. And why would I need to start my own brand of saris when I've got friends like Neta Weave who send me such lovely cotton silks? There you go. Okay, so here, that was it for today's Instagram live. And the counter has just come up to say that I've got 1 minute 45 seconds remaining. So all that remains to be said is thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had as much fun as I did. If you're up for this, we can do this again next week. Send me more questions, send me more exciting questions, and we'll see what happens. Thank you so much for your time and for your attention. This has been absolute fun. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful Sunday ahead, and I'll see you soon.